Welcome to Faith in 5, a weekly video devotional designed to discuss practical spiritual concepts in 5 minutes or less. I'm your host, Mark Vandella. A few years ago, I had an incident on the road. I was driving, and I'm somebody who just likes to drive a little bit faster than everybody else. I don't necessarily think I drive like too fast, but it typically means that I'm pulling up on a lot of people. I pass people. I'm not necessarily a road rage type of person, but I'm always driving a little bit faster than everybody else. I don't know why it is. It just feels like I'm always in a hurry, even though I don't necessarily have any place important to go. I just have this stopwatch in my head that for some reason I need to beat how long it should take by just a little bit of time. So I had one of these incidents. I pulled up on somebody. They were going a little bit slower than I preferred. And I had this moment. I was going to turn left in front of them. So I had this moment of like, do I pass them or do I just settle in? And to somebody who likes to drive a little bit fast, settling in felt like it was going to be 5 days. So I passed this person. But as I passed this person, I realized I probably should have settled in. I had to pull in front of them quickly before being able to turn left. And so as I drove past this person, of course, as you pass somebody that's driving the opposite of you, you look in, you kind of sear and stare and glare. But as I had to kind of pull in quickly and cut them off. And typically in one of these situations, the worst thing that can happen is you pull up to the light. I got caught at the light because, again, he was driving too slow. And that person pulls up next to you. And then you got that awkward moment of, do I look? Do I stare forward? Do I just ignore it? That's what I thought was the worst thing that could happen. But turns out the worst thing that could happen is that person pulls up behind you, turns left with you, and you both pull into the same grocery store parking lot. So I pulled in and found my spot. This person pulled like 3 spaces in front of me, found his spot. And I had this, like, I was seething. I was so angry that this person made me miss the light. They also turned into the parking lot, and, you know, they must just not be paying attention, right? All of these things that we think. So I get out of the car, and I walk up, because he was closer to the entrance, and I walk up, and I look over to see this guy. And I see him in the backseat unbuckling a child. And in that instant, all of my anger and frustration disappeared. Because he became human. Right when he's inside of a car, whether it's tinted windows or not, he's anonymous. He's wrong. He's doing something that I don't like, and I was probably the same to him. But all of a sudden in that moment, he was a dad. He has a name. I don't know what it is, but I know he has one, right? And so I tell you this because we as humans are unique. We are wired for connection, and yet we're also really sensitive to similarities and differences. So when we sense similarities, we're drawn near that. And when we sense differences, we push that away. So when this guy was anonymous and he was driving too slow, I pushed him away. But when I saw that he was a dad, he was a real live human, it made me think about my friends that are dads, or even me as an uncle. So it's really fascinating. Unfortunately, we're pretty fickle in that. And because we're created for connection, obviously God created us for connection. The Bible is full of examples and good advice on what we need to do in these spaces. And Jesus really speaks out on this regularly. And so Jesus in John 13:34 says this. He says, "A new command I give you, love one another." That seems pretty simple. Stop right there. Love one another, whether they're driving too fast or too slow. But he goes on to say, "As I have loved you." So we know that Jesus loved us. We have a lot of similarities with us. He came here to be human and to live among us. He felt pain and sorrow and joy. We have a lot of similarities, but we also have a lot of differences with him. And Jesus loved us in those differences as well. So he says, "As I loved you, you must love one another," in the similarities and the differences. He says, "By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." And so I love that when he says, "By this, others will know." For me, it helps me push past those differences that my fickle brain wants to say, you're wrong, drive too slow, drive too fast, right? Jesus says, no, if you do that, they will not experience your Creator. They will not experience the love that I have given. And so today's message kind of comes, it was inspired by a book. This whole series is inspired by a devotional book that I read by Bob Goff. He says, "Live in grace and walk in love." And this particular message, really, the title of this section is called When Joy is a Habit, Love is a Reflex. And so I think that's the challenge to us in these moments where we have that fickleness of like, ooh, you're like me, drawn to you. Yes, we should love there. But also, ooh, you're different than me. Those are the moments where Jesus says that is a spot where you can show people God's love. And so in this, today's message is called I Love You. And that means all of you. That means no matter what you have done or who you are or how same or how different we are, I love you. That's the challenge. But Bob Goff says, we need to develop kind of this joy mentality so that love becomes a reflex. And so in our faith journey, the challenge is not just as simple as go love other people. That's challenging, it's difficult, and we're probably going to fall a bit short. The challenge this week in our faith is to think through what things give us joy, what things can we do to kind of create these habits of loving other people, essentially change perspective. I knew that guy was a human when he was driving too slow, before he was unbuckling a child. And so we have to think, Jesus would ask me to do this differently. So what brings you joy? And what could you be curious about or really see curiosity in those differences? And then lastly, how could you more naturally love others? Like what could you do in the next week to just be really intentional about showing love to others? Whether that's a text, an email, a phone call, or just even holding the door open for somebody, letting somebody pass you, settle in and drive a little slower. Let's put our faith on display so that other people know not only do we love them, but that God loves them. Thanks for watching Faith in 5. If you like what you see, please like and share. If you're interested in making a donation to our ministry, please click the link below.